Americans, we're just waiting for Marco Moreno to log on and join us. It's 10 p.m. in Israel, here in Israel. So it means two things. Number one, it's past our bedtime, so this will be a short live. But secondly, and why we're here, we are 26 hours after Hamas announced through Al Jazeera, which is important because Al Jazeera is a media company owned and operated in Qatar. So it would be like, Russia's got their RT News, or, for other Americans, think like hypothetically, if like the GOP owned Fox News, or if the Democrats owned MSNBC or CNN or something, like properly owned, Hamas used a Qatari news outlet agency to surprise everybody and say that they had accepted a ceasefire deal. Now, we are 7 months since October 7th, and there's Marco. Perfect. Here we go. You guys should know I was born in the 80s, so I'm like aging out of being effective with social media apps. Good evening, Marco.
Hey guys,
How are you feeling?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Living the dream.
Good.
So I was just giving my flyover that 26 hours ago, Hamas announced to the world through Al Jazeera, the Qatari news agency, that they had accepted a ceasefire deal.
Mm-hmm.
And we're 7 months since October 7th, and I have lost track of the amount of times there's been some kind of ceasefire deal possibly on the table. Now, Netanyahu said at the start, Israel has two objectives. We're going to get the hostages back, and we're going to end Hamas's. They will no longer be in power. We're going to destroy their infrastructure. For the day after in Gaza, there will be no Hamas. So those are the two objectives: get the hostages, destroy Hamas. But you have Qatar, the U.S. in back channels, and now most recently in Egypt, engineering. I wouldn't even call this a negotiation. We got news alerts last night that Hamas had accepted a ceasefire deal, and everybody said, "What ceasefire deal?"
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel that shock and surprise last night?
Yeah, it was a surprise because we didn't knew which deal they are talking about. So
The terms were not described. They just said, "We agree to a ceasefire."
yeah, today we understood what's the term. Let's take it back. Before. Qatar was the main country to negotiate for Hamas any kind of hostage deal. Turns out they didn't do a good job because they couldn't press Hamas, and then the Egyptian came into the arena. On April 27, Israel issued to the Egyptian what we think is a good hostage deal, very generous one, by the way, which the Egyptians took to Hamas, and Hamas didn't agree, like 3 days ago, because the
This was. Do you want to outline what that proposal was?
proposal was 6 weeks ceasefire, which they will release 33 hostage,
Living
what they call,
hostages.
sorry,
Living hostages.
yes,
33 living hostages.
living hostage from the humanitarian part of it, meaning kids, ladies, old people, and the soldiers lady, but soldiers ladies, and we will release a lot of terrorists and 6 weeks ceasefire, and then we talk about the second stage and the third stage, but that will be. And Hamas said no. If there isn't any like permit ceasefire, we're not going to any negotiation. Meaning, the IDF will withdraw from Gaza, and the war is over. Without us achieving our goals in the war, which was in the beginning, uh, eliminating Hamas and bringing back the hostage. Just to remind folks back home, after October 7, which we lost like 350 soldiers and around 1,200 civilians that were raped, butchered, and. Not only that, that means that Hamas will stay in power. Hamas can renew his military capabilities, and we can find ourselves in October 7 in a year or 2 or 3. So, what you understand, this is a deal that Israel cannot accept.
But includes as well rebuilding Gaza.
Yeah, well, I don't care about the rebuilding. I don't care
Well,
about
I want to point this out though, because Israel left the Gaza Strip in 2005 with all kinds of infrastructure. You guys have not had jurisdiction. You've not been the governing authority in Israel for 19 years, almost 20 years.
The infrastructure is not the big deal. The big deal is Hamas will stay in power. The tunnels between Egypt and Gaza will stay. That means you can get weapons again and again. And that means we return to October 6th. Okay?
Exactly. But Israel rebuilds
No, not
October
Israel,
2nd.
not Israel. Like the international community will rebuild Gaza. They didn't want us to rebuild Gaza.
Yeah.
But they want us to allow it to happen.
Now, some of the language in that proposition, that 72, like 3 days ago, you said the 27th. I'm losing track of
That
time.
was the proposal 27. They gave us an answer. They said, okay, we don't want that. We want the end of the war. And then Israel said, no, okay, we are going into Rafah. And this morning, like yesterday, like an hour before Israel launched the Rafah operation, like 8 p.m., 8 or 9 p.m., we started the ground operation. Like an hour before, Hamas said, okay, we are accepting the ceasefire deal. So everybody said, which ceasefire deal? You guys just refused. Turns out that William Burns, which is the head of the CIA, the American CIA, was bouncing between Cairo and Qatar and Doha. And together everybody did a new agreement without Israel agreeing on it, or even, I don't know if they know about it, but definitely didn't agree upon it before. The new ceasefire or the new deal is like 10 times worse than what Hamas said before, meaning they said end of the war, 33 hostage in the first phase, but we don't know, not necessarily everybody alive, probably some bodies, like casualties, people that died, and permanent ceasefire, and not ceasefire for 42 days, like 10 weeks. Long story short, a lot of big words, meaning the end of the war. What was the big, let's say, for us, I mean, I don't know about the government if they knew or not, but let's say for the Israeli civilians, what we understood today that America, or not America, the Biden administration, just became in one front with Hamas, ending this war. That's the reality we woke up this morning. Biden administration, by sending his head of the CIA, never mind, with Egypt and Qatar, which everybody agree that they don't really care about Israel. But okay, leave them aside. I'm talking about the U.S. administration, are in the same line with Hamas, meaning the Biden administration, even though he said it a couple of times after October 7, that he's acknowledging the right of Israel to defend herself, and he thinks that Hamas need to vanish, and it's all big words with nothing behind it. Said no end of the war. I'm telling you, the Biden administration doesn't care about the hostage. He said, "I care about the hostage." He doesn't care, even though there is American citizens between the hostage. Because if I read the agreement today, it's for a 4 page, and if you read the agreement, that like what I call the American Qatar Egypt ceasefire deal, you will realize that Hamas is keeping the hostage, the lives one that those are alive to the end. That means like a year, 2 years from now. Uh, that's a big deal here in Israel. I'm telling you. I didn't anticipate, honestly, nothing from Hamas. The last thing I anticipate from them is to be honest or to do something reasonable. But to see the Biden administration is it's just so crazy. On top of that, we are learning from I think the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times. I don't know which media, that the Biden administration hold back two weapon deliveries to Israel last week. Um, but that's a side issue.
The Congress didn't even know about it.
Yeah. My message today to my brothers and sisters in America, uh, and maybe I'm coming to the end of this thing quickly, is that we need to hear your voice. We need to hear your voice. I mean, the evangelicals. We need to hear your voice loud and clear. Stand with Israel, because what we as Israelis, and I'm representing all of the Israelis tonight, are hearing that the Biden administration, people don't understand Biden administration. They say America, because they say all the Americans are stabbing Israel in the back. Okay, this is what happened today. Any case, the IDF started the Rafah operation yesterday. It's kind of leverage or to put pressure on Hamas. Let's see what will happen. Without Israel said they can stop in any step the operation in order to get a new ceasefire or a good deal. We understand that in Israel, let's say the normal people in Israel understand that only military pressure on Hamas will push them to a normal, reasonable hostage deal. There is a big debate in Israel between the Israelis, which price we are willing to pay as a society, as a nation, to bring back all the hostage back. I think one of the things that the majority of the Israelis agree, that we cannot stop the war. Like, we lost 600 soldiers till now. So why did we lost 600 soldiers to stop now? So, yeah, let's see. Heavy times in Israel, heavy times, heavy days. It's all complicated. All the world is against us. The international, I mean, like the Europe, the US. We see what's going on US campuses, on New York streets, demonstrating against Israel and free Palestine and all this bullshit. It's happened in Europe also. We have also the hostage families here in Israel, which are some of them combined with the radical left here, demonstrating against the army, against the government. Yeah, let's see what will happen.
Where do you see this in a week or two? Do you have any expectations?
Nah,
Too
we
fluid.
take it one day by another. Listen, I'll tell you what will happen in the end, okay? What I think will happen in Gaza. Let's assume that Hamas will not go to any kind of a deal in the next few days. Only if Hamas will fail. that the sword is on his neck, meaning Yahya Sinwar, which is the Hamas leader, will hear the tanks behind the corner or a special unit of the army coming to his tunnel. Only then two things will happen. Or one, he will surrender and will try to cut a deal, like, okay, let me go to Egypt or to Qatar or I don't know where, to the moon, and he will release the hostage. Or he will commit a suicide with them. Also a possibility. We should honestly talk about it. But that's the only two options. The third option, which is not valid, at least in the eyes of the majority of the Israelis, is to surrender, right? To end the war, return to October 6th. Hamas will renew its power, and we will find ourselves in October 7 in a year or two or three. I'm not talking about the message that this thing will do to the north, to the east, to all our enemies. I'm not talking about putting in jeopardy every Jewish guy, lady, someone around the world, because the message will be to any terror organization: kidnap an Israeli or kidnap a Jew, do it in, I don't know, in Thailand, and Israel will surrender. And then you can say, for instance, kidnap someone, I don't know, family in somewhere, and then you can say, listen, I want you guys to withdraw from the old city of Jerusalem. If not, I will kill them. Like, it's crazy if we will go this road. I'm not. I don't think they will go. I think I think the Israelis are very united around this thing. There is like there's a lot of demonstrations in Israel, but one of them is soldiers that were in the reserves combined with families that lost their kids in war, demonstrating to continue the war. Now, I don't know how much you guys are familiar with the war history in Israel, but usually in every war in Israel, especially after 5-6 months, we never had a war 5-6 months, but usually after, a month or two in a war, there is demonstration to stop the war. So now there is also demonstration to continue the war, because I think the Israelis understand where we at. That we are, and I think we spoke about it in our last live. We are in the second independent war in Israel.
We were just in Jerusalem for a couple days, and as we were driving up today, a lot of the overpasses have signs, bring them home now, or whatever, and a lot of Hebrew that I can't read that quickly or understand. But there was one today that surprised me. It said Rafah Akshav, like Rafah now.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen that before. Marco, I know we'll talk about this at length in a future episode of the Moreno Report, but there's also, um, I don't even want to say there's talk kicking around. I don't know how seriously to take this, but speculation at least that there would be some kind of UN recognition of a Palestinian state.
Yeah, this Friday.
Is it
Yeah.
viable? Where do you see that going?
I don't know.
It's like a loophole. It's a
Yeah,
backdoor. It's not a vote. It's
yeah, because it's not through the Security Committee something.
which would be
Uh,
a similar thing. Kidnap
yeah,
Israelis and we'll reward you with states.
yeah.
Slaughter Israelis
I,
will reward you with a
I
state.
heard the Israeli ambassador to the UN that
Mm-hmm.
said that he thinks the U.S. administration will vote against it, or I don't know, but I don't think they can veto it. They cannot, issue a veto on
Mm-hmm.
it. But the the Palestinian Authority, it's a big deal that we will have to do a Moreno report on it, because it's another issue. We have to deal with what we call in the day after
Mm-hmm.
the war in Gaza, because what we learned, that is the Palestinian Authority is not, it's almost like Hamas. I think I mentioned it before. The reason we didn't have October 7 in the West Bank is not because they don't have the capability, not the willing to do it. They have the will to do it, but they don't have the, let's say, the military capability to do it because the IDF is very strong. We are on the ground. There is the settlements. You know about that. So, but that's a deal. Let's say the Palestinian Authority. Let's end Gaza. Let's go to the north. Remember, we have a small issue in the north. We have to take care. Hezbollah, etc., which increased his attack in the last few days. Only yesterday, two reserve soldiers died in Metula, which is like 20 minutes from the place me and you are living in. Metula, it's like on the Lebanese border. And today they launched six explosive drones. Looks like Hezbollah is increasing pace in the last days. Still under the, that doesn't want to open a big war. But as I mentioned before, and I'm still saying it, I'm actually saying it from the day one. Once the war will end in Gaza, you will see a war in the north. Why? Because it's in the highest interest of Israel to have a war in the north. Why? You cannot allow a terror organization make, like 70, 80,000 people of the north, villages, cities evacuated into Tel Aviv area, shooting every day, rockets, drones, everything. And I don't know where the folks in this live are, but probably from the US. So each of one of you think sitting in his home and the country next to you will shoot missiles on your explosive drone. It's, I don't have even a word in English to describe it. But Israel decided from the beginning that they will deal with the South situation war in Gaza. Once Rafah is the end stage, okay? Well, Rafah is the last stage. Let's see what will happen with that. I'm assuming once we see Rafah, going to a phase of quiet in a way, all the soldiers, the units will go up north, and we'll probably see a massive, I don't know, massive, but not what we are seeing now in the north. That means, in my opinion, that Israel will be in war all over the 2024, might go also to 2025. I heard that some talking about that Israel is waiting for the election in November in the US, hoping Trump will be elected like Republicans in order to open a war with Lebanon. I don't know if it's true. I think it's not because it's not reasonable because we know that even if Trump will be elected on November, you will go to office on January because in America you have like 3 months going into. So I don't know. It's all talking all day long. But any case, to simplify it, I think after the Rafah operation, which I don't know, it just began yesterday. We don't know where it's going after, but we can monitor it. You will see that Rafah is pretty much end, and then I think Israel will go to the north. I don't know if it will start with a massive strike in Iran against the nuclear, program they have there, because we have Iran also. We don't forget Iran. Iran is on the on the race to a nuclear program, weapon, etc. And Israel cannot, live with Iranians have nuclear weapon because they're saying it out loud. And I have my suggestions over listening to the enemy and believe the enemy. And I believe the Iranians, like I believe Hamas, by the way, like I believe Hezbollah. By the way, Hamas, from what he said from the beginning, is doing. Okay? And Iran said, we will destroy Israel, we will. So, we, as you guys can understand, we have a lot of on our mind, but slowly.
The Turkish foreign minister today said Israel has to stop and we're going to make them. Do you think that that's just an overture?
Yeah.
Is he just spouting things off because Turkey wants to be in the ring?
One of the beautiful, not beautiful, but one of the interesting things that happened after October 7, I call it the mask ball. Like mask,
Hmm. Hmm.
like we take off the mask. We
Hmm.
took off the mask from Qatar,
Hmm.
Egypt, Biden administration, Turkey,
Yeah.
Europe, all over.
Hmm.
Everybody revealed their true faces, what
Hmm.
they think about us, which side of the justice and truth they are. Like I heard now the spinning that rape didn't happen on October 7th.
Hmm.
There wasn't any rape.
It's just, I'm
Yeah,
not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's
yeah,
ridiculous. Hamas
yeah,
literally has
but
GoPros
by
on
the way,
them.
you hear it in U.S. campuses.
Oh, I know, I
Okay.
know. Susan Sarandon says it's all a lie. I
Point.
mean, if Susan Sarandon says it's true, it
Yeah,
must be.
not not our Susan.
Not never our Susan. Our Susan is straight and narrow. Um,
She's much more better than Susan Sarandon, by the way.
well, Susan Sarandon is setting a very low bar, but our Susan is the best. I think hers has a lag. She's sitting right behind me. But um, I do want to point out one thing and then ask you about something next week, Marco, because I think people are the lag just got. Marco spent 25 years in the Army Intelligence Unit in the U.S. In Israel, so it's not like somebody like me who's from the U.S. watching this unfold on Twitter, forming like a plebeian opinion, going, "Wow, it really looks like you I mean, like you said, Hamas. I have very low expectations of Qatar. All the Hamas guys live in Qatar, Egypt, all these things. I'm shocked and embarrassed at how the Biden administration has handled this. Um, but
You are not shocked how the Biden administration is handling the campuses riots? Like
I mean, you know what? That's
it took him like 2 weeks to say something, blah, blah, blah. Like
the crazy thing about the campus riots, and this is I don't
burning
want
American
burning
flags.
American. Yeah, that's like I don't want to get too high on my soapbox. I do. You guys saw that there was a picture of a Columbia janitor, like who was nearly himself taken quote hostage by these protesters who were trying to pretend that they're Gazans in every respect, and he was pushing this protester against the wall who's like masked and hoodie, completely covered, and just in the altercation, the protester's shirt, his hoodie's hiked up, and you can see part of his face, and I was like, that's not like a 20-year-old starving college kid. That's that's like a middle-aged man living in his mom's basement. And sure enough, that guy's 40 years old. He's a trust fund baby who lives in like a $3 million penthouse in Brooklyn.
You guys
And he's so
read the Wall Street Journal um, article about the protest, about who's funding
who's
it,
funding
or
it?
who's
A
like the Black
few,
Panthers, and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
all organized, orchestrated,
It's
everything is planned.
insane. Yeah, it's. I am bewildered. It's I said at the start of this thing, it's past my bedtime, so I'm having a hard time finding my language for how absurd and ridiculous and like just embarrassing this is as an American. I did appreciate at George Washington University they just rolled out the biggest American flag anybody's ever seen above the protest. But I'm saying all this to say, guys, that when Marco says like this is ridiculous, it's not just that he's an Israeli who has personal offense. It's something that's not going the way that he wants to go on a national or political level. He's a retired intelligence officer, so there's protocol maneuvering in any negotiation. You have to have the parties present. You don't inform the parties of the negotiation terms or an agreement through a Qatari news channel.
Yeah.
So everything about this is like I would put this debacle and just really grossly manipulative play by the Biden administration on the same shelf. I put it right next to the Afghanistan withdrawal. It was just a complete, you know. I tweeted yesterday, we don't negotiate with terrorists, but when we do, we just pour a keg of kerosene in the dumpster and light the thing on fire. It's appalling. But Marco, here in Israel next week, well, before I ask you about that. You had
Yeah, I
you were
just
saying
want to
something.
say that the Biden administration and Biden himself, it's not Biden, between us.
Right. Yeah.
It's Kamala Harris and
Mm-hmm.
Obama.
Mm-hmm.
They are behind it. I'm not a conspiracy guy.
I don't know if I give Kamala that much credit, but
No, it's Obama. You're right. It's Obama
yeah.
pushing Kamala Harris to be the president. If Biden will be elected, I don't know. He's pretty not young, and never mind. But America is in a year of election, and they don't care about Israel. They don't care about the Palestinians. By the way, they don't care
Mm-hmm.
about nothing. They want quiet. They want to win Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know.
Which have a lot of Muslim voters.
Interesting thing will be, by the way, we haven't spoke about it, but let's say a word on it, is the Jewish vote
Mm.
in America. As we know, the Jews, not the Israelis, the Jews in America vote for the Democrats, usually like
Yeah.
75%, 80%. Also, they donate a lot of money to the Democrat Party, I mean the rich Jews. Um, but I hope that the Jews will wake up in America
Mm.
and understand that the Biden administration is not very good for them.
Well,
But let's see
not
what.
only not good for them. One of the kind of not one of the phrases that's floating around the air here is, sounds silly to say because it rhymes, but the West is next. This is like the thing about Islam. The thing about Islam is we all criminally underestimate Islam, and the word Islam means literally submission. The whole point to Islam is to bring everyone everywhere under the submission of the sword of Muhammad. And they have to start here because those dirty Zionists took the city of Jerusalem back, and they have to get the land back and then continue, and get back to southern Spain that they used to have in the original caliphate, and then go even further. It is the upside down, backwards, demonized version of like go ye therefore and take dominion and be fruitful and multiply. It's a very dark um, global ambition. So I there's a lot of reasons why we're with Israel in this war and in this moment, but one of them, on a secondary level, is that um, I think in a similar way that we can thank the Kurds for stopping ISIS, we'll thank Israel for stopping Iran.
Hmm. That was a question, by the way.
No, my question was, I just wanted you to kind of color this in for people. Next week in Israel, like I think 2 days ago, again, I can't keep track of time because I was traveling, but we just had
Last night.
Holocaust Memorial
Yeah,
Day
yeah,
last
it's
night.
Sunday morning. It's Sunday evening.
And then today's Tuesday now. So the
Sunday.
next Sunday night starts
Memorial Day.
Fallen Soldiers Memorial Day. And one of the things I love, I so appreciate about the way Israel does this, just for you Americans watching, it's almost like taking Memorial Day and Veterans Day or the 4th of July and putting them literally back to back. So next week, Sunday night, Fallen Soldiers Memorial Day starts. Um, and then as soon as that ends, Monday night, Independence Day starts. So before you can celebrate the independence, you remember what it cost you to have it. And,
Or
everybody.
you're celebrating the independence because of those that sacrificed their life.
Mhm.
Memorial Day.
So can you just, I know it's getting late, but can you just describe for people what is that like in Israel? What do you do on Fallen Soldiers
On
Memorial
the
Day?
Memorial Day, what we usually do is we go to to the cemeteries all over the country,
Hmm.
like all over the country. Like in Israel, you don't. I don't think there is a family that didn't lost someone or knows someone or a friend of someone. So there is ceremonies. There is like the big one, the national one, and then there's the small one. It's
Hmm.
all begin at 11 p.m., 11 a.m. in the morning. There is a siren, by the way,
Hmm.
but everybody stop. for a minute, remembering all the soldiers we lost, which is almost 25,000 all over the wars. Like
Since 1948, almost
mhm.
25,000 Israeli soldiers.
Just this year, 600.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then there is like ceremonies in schools, and no one goes to work. It's like a day off. It's a very sad day.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, Ironically, it's not a sad days for these families that lost their loved one, because for them every day it's a memorial day. Like
Mm-hmm.
for them it's not
Mm-hmm.
unique. They 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 carry the pain, and every day. Just a way for this country to give respect to our soldiers that died. So everybody stopped, go to the cemeteries, schools doing ceremonies, and then back to back, as you mentioned, you start the Independence Day, like our Fourth of July celebration. This year, by the way, and there was a big debate about. Usually, it's a big festival, like with fireworks and big stages, and
The
the
jets
fame.
flying formation.
Yeah, and the army, and you have like the big singers in Israel moving around. It's a big deal. This year, the decision is that we do it very modest because of the hostage and the
Mm-hmm.
war. We will have an Independence Day. We will celebrate, but we do it very, you know,
Mm-hmm.
something else, uh,
Mm-hmm.
because we still have hostages in Gaza,
Mm-hmm.
and we still have soldiers fighting in Gaza and in the north. But so the decision is that we will have it, but not like a big fireworks
Mm-hmm.
and big festival. Very much for the first time, by the way,
Yeah.
for the first time in the history of Israel. Usually, it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a sobering week ahead.
Hmm?
It's a sobering week ahead.
It, it's a sobering 6 month we had from almost seven, actually, from October 7.
Mm. Living the dream.
Yeah. Cool.
All
Okay,
right. Well,
guys, thank you for being with us today.
mm,
We keep on updating you what's going
yep.
on. Pray for us. Stand with Israel. That's the time to stand with Israel, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to point you guys to our Israel fund again. If we've got initiatives in different locations throughout the Middle East, and Israel's gotten almost all of our airtime since October 7th, but it's just we felt it is an appropriate emphasis. But Marco is our captain here on the ground, and has found meaningful ways to serve and support Israelis, serve and support Israel. We've been supporting a family of one of the hostages in Gaza. As you give to our Israel Fund, it enables us to continue to do those things. And some things we can talk about online, and some things we can't, either for security or just tact. But you can go to fai.online, go to donate, throw it on the Israel Fund. You can join our $5 a month giving campaign. We say skip a coffee, change the Middle East. Because all of those numbers add up. And so thank you guys for your time. Marco, thank you for joining us this evening. And
Yeah.
we will be in touch.
Bye bye. Take care. Bye bye.